We're live.
Good morning, everyone, and aloha snack bar worldwide, everywhere from the four corners of the reaches of the planet. It is I, the Senor Silverback, coming to you on another edition of Mornings with CJ and V is CJ, whichever way you want to put it. I'm so tired, but anyway, the denizen of the deep, the uncanny one, CJ. And today we got a lot of things to run to because, as you know, it is approximately probably a very Arctic type of weather conditions here in most of the United States. So that means this morning the Russian analyst is joining us, James and CJ. CJ, what's up, man? How are you? And then we'll go into James. CJ has muted himself again. CJ, are you muted?
No, I'm getting Facebook up, the live stream on Facebook going
Oh.
because we had a little bit of delay.
The
No,
delay.
so I'm back. Yeah, good morning, V.
Sorry for the delay, everyone. We had some technical issues.
But no, glad to be here this morning. A lot to go over.
Oh
Happy
yeah,
to have James, the Russian analyst, with joining us with us. Well, V. So let's get
absolutely.
this show on the road.
James, welcome aboard, buddy. How are you?
Отлично.
Yes, Ovlichna, and we're gonna go more than 20 minutes today. I think we're gonna go probably a full 45, maybe even an hour, because there's a lot to cover, and we have you on as a guest, so it's one of those special things. James, when you came on, let's get into it, man. Michael Flynn, what the heck is going on, bro?
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to come on today because of. Can you hear me? Are we good?
Yes, perfectly.
Loud and clear. Excellent. Okay. Yeah, that was one of the reasons I wanted to come on the program today was because I was pretty incensed by what had happened to Lieutenant General Flynn, National Security
Yeah,
Advisor to President Donald J. Trump, and particularly kind of the absurdity of many of the allegations that were made against him, but also because it's part of a larger power play that's going on and infighting in Washington, D.C., and perhaps even within the administration itself. However, I don't want to oversell it. I think that some people, including my friend the Saker, who writes at Vineyard of the Saker, are kind of overreacting to it as well. Because
yeah,
just because you get rid of Flynn doesn't mean that that they're gonna. It's not like a video game where you defeat the guy, the character you're trying to take down, and then you move on to the next level. It doesn't work that way. I think what's going on is that Trump basically talked to Flynn and told him to take one for the team, and that this whole issue was becoming a distraction to the administration. They didn't really need it. I think he served his purpose well during the transition period, communicating with the Russian ambassador Kiselak. And but that's kind of part of the whole absurdity of these claims is that Flynn is not an idiot. Okay, he was the head of the Defense Intelligence Agency. He's a very intelligent man. I don't agree with him on everything, particularly Iran, but
right.
he's very, very well informed, very astute. And a lot of people said he was forced out of DIA by Obama because he wasn't a good manager, or he got into conspiracy theories, quote unquote, about this or that and the other. But the truth is, the reason he was forced out is because he objected to the Obama administration arming jihadist terrorists in Syria, and felt that they were creating a threat even before they were calling themselves ISIS. He understood that this massive arms smuggling pipeline out of Libya into Syria was going on, and that was one of the causes of Benghazi. And it's not probably also a coincidence that the Judicial Watch came out with a memo which said that that was written in 2012 by someone in the Defense Intelligence Agency, very likely working for General Flynn at that time, who said that the goal of U.S. and Gulf Cooperation Council, Saudi Arabian and Qatari policy was to establish a quote unquote Salafist principality in eastern Syria and western Iraq. Well, we now know that Salafist principality is ISIS, as the territory they took over.
Correct.
But that is part of the background for why we see this hatred of Flynn and this total campaign of vilification of him, because he basically was a whistleblower. I mean, that memo would not have been declassified, I do not think, and gotten to judicial watch and published worldwide by 2015, had it not been for General Flynn.
Yeah.
So that's the background to what's happened, folks. Just for those who don't know, there's been a kind of feud going on between some elements of the Pentagon and the CIA, and elements, I'm not going to say the entire CIA, but the leadership of the CIA, the upper echelons, and the people that were running the arm and train program for the so-called moderate Syrian rebels. It's been going back for years. It's been going on. The Pentagon program, we have special forces guys who talk to Jack Murphy, who was himself a former Army special forces guy, saying, F this, we don't believe in this mission. We're just training the next generation of terrorists here in Jordan. And of course, those, 3 of our soldiers, our special forces Green Berets, were killed by so-called moderates they were training in Jordan in 2015, in late 2016. And, a lot of them don't believe in the mission. A lot of the rebels complained that they were getting shoddy, substandard, crappy equipment that didn't work. And that was deliberate because people in the Pentagon were sabotaging the CIA ambitions to create this Salafist principality, basically sending them duds, sending them crappy weapons and such. And that's why none of these so-called moderate training programs worked, because the people who were actually committed to fighting and always ended up joining Jabhat al-Nusra, the al-Qaeda affiliate in Syria, while the so-called moderates just weren't worth a flip in terms of fighting. And you see that now. I mean, look how long it's taking the Turkish army with these so-called moderates to take al-Bab, right, from ISIS. I mean, ISIS is just continuously beating them back. And it's not that ISIS is so badass. It's just that, the Turkish army post purges and these so-called moderates that are with them, that were some of the same people the CIA were training, are just that worthless in terms of actual fighting abilities.
Yeah.
So, that I wanted to give people the backdrop or the background for what's been going on with Flynn and why his career, very brief career as U.S. National Security Advisor, has become a casualty of this bureaucratic Cold War, if you like, between these globalists still in the CIA. They haven't been rooted out. And their buddies at the Washington Post, the Langley Bezos Post, as I call it, or the Bezos blog, because it's owned by Amazon.com founder Jeff Bezos, and received over $600 million in, I think, venture capital funding from the CIA or something for some database thing they were building. So anyway, there's a relationship there, and I probably sound like I'm rambling a little bit. I haven't had my coffee this morning. In fact, I'm still on the night schedule. So if I sound a little bit, if I start to wonder a little bit, feel free to jump in, gentlemen.
No, I appreciate you coming and saying that. And I agree, and I think for our listeners too, let's frame this up in some context as well. That
because I don't want to assume that everybody kind of knows the whole story. That's why I'm taking some time.
Right. Well, I mean, and
go into the background. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, and the thing to keep in perspective here is that, basically, I think this says a lot around Flynn's, his leadership and his commitment to Trump. I mean, let's think about it. This guy technically really did nothing wrong compared to, he didn't violate any crimes other than he
didn't violate the Logan Act, which is, first of all, a 1799 law that has never been enforced. Not a single time a prosecution has been brought.
Otherwise, Lindsey Graham and John McCain and Mrs. John McCain wouldn't be allowed to fly around into Ukraine and foment war.
No,
that's exactly. The Logan Act prevents that from happening.
No, even though it's supposedly for private citizens, no, United States senators are not supposed to create foreign policy on their own. Foreign policy is supposed to be by design of the Constitution, because our founding fathers didn't want 100 different wannabe commanders in chiefs in the Senate or whatever that the number of senators was in their time to be trying to run American foreign policy all at once and at different odds. And in their time, of course, you had people who were pro-British, and you had people that were pro-French. Some of the people who watched the miniseries by HBO, John Adams, that many of you guys may be familiar with, remember that plot point where Jefferson was basically accusing Hamilton of being a British agent, and Hamilton was saying, Jefferson, he's with those crazy French revolutionaries. So to bring it back to the present, we have people in Congress, we have people in the so-called fourth branch of government that are bitterly opposed to Trump's policy of détente with Russia, that he promised the American people. He made no secret of it. It was out in the open. He had rallies with thousands of people attending who, politely applauded when he said, I want to get along with Putin. I want to try to improve relations with Russia. He didn't guarantee that the relationship would improve, but he said, we're going to try to do this, and we're going to smash ISIS together. And of course, if they smash ISIS together, they can't let that happen, because then a lot of other things start falling apart. People start asking too many questions. Why are we doing this ridiculous saber rattling in Eastern Europe when, we're not deploying enough troops to actually make a big difference if there were to be a shooting war, but we're just deploying enough to piss the Russians off.
Right.
Yeah, and remember that it was Sally Yates who was fired by Trump, the one that came forth to say, hey, listen, we just want to put you, let you know that he may be vulnerable, Flynn may be vulnerable to blackmail based upon this. So Flynn was able to understand that he was becoming a distraction to the administration. He took the high road and said, you know what, I'm not going to go through that. I'm just going to resign. If this was Obama's administration, Obama would be coming on like in 6 months from now saying that he found out about it through the news, what had happened. He would have awarded a medal to Flynn, and Flynn would be running for president in 4 years. That's how it would amount if it was a different administration.
Well, two things. First of all, Sally Yates claim that also supposedly John Brennan, the lame duck CIA director, got involved in, that the Russians were somehow going to be able to blackmail Flynn for what he said to their ambassador over an open line that both sides know full well. I mean, the Russians aren't stupid. They know their lines are tapped at their embassy. The Russians tap our embassies, at least the open lines, the ones that aren't, special secured encrypted phones. Of course, both sides knew that, Kislyak and Flynn, that the FBI and very likely the NSA as well were listening. This whole idea that Flynn could be blackmailed over a call made on a line that his own intelligence agencies are listening to, and he knows full well they are, it's ridiculous. Even if he made some kind of quote unquote promises, and you notice nobody's releasing the transcript of the call, and the FBI came out and said, well, there's no real wrongdoing here. We couldn't prove in court that Flynn promised them anything other than just saying, hey, look, maybe what we need to do is revisit some of these issues, possibly sanctions, after the transition to a new administration. That's all pretty much he said to Kislyak. I mean, that's treason now?
It's treason.
It's ridiculous.
But Hillary could delete.
So lame duck Obama gets to screw everything up. And by the way, if these people had their way, let's say Flynn doesn't make the call, 35 American diplomats would have been kicked out of Moscow.
Yeah.
Even if we assume that the Flynn phone call to Kislyak conveyed to Putin was the reason Putin decided, no, we're not going to do tit for tat. Okay. So Flynn's a traitor because 35 Americans, including probably not a few CIA agents with official cover with families in Moscow, they bring their families, didn't get 72 hours notice from the FSB and the Russian Foreign Ministry to get the hell out, pack up all their stuff and leave. Am I missing something here, guys? Because that's what we're talking about here. Obama expelled 35 diplomats. He shut down the Russian, their whatever it's called, their dacha on the Maryland shore. Right. And if the Russians had done tit for tat, they would have shut down our, we have a little embassy dacha. It's not really a dacha because it's still in the city, but it's closer to the Rublovka area of Moscow. It's nice. There's a big green grass in the yard and a gazebo and everything, and they could have shut that down. So, Flynn did an honorable service to his country and to his commander-in-chief. And that's why I'm so burned up about this.
No, I'm burned up about it too, man. I mean, my thing is, it's this, dude. It's
you can fault him for other things. I didn't agree with what he said about Iran. We're going to put him on notice because they launched a missile. Okay,
right.
Bravo, Foxtrot, Delta. Okay.
Look at the double standard here. You got Hillary Clinton, who deletes 33,000 emails that are on subpoena. She goes out and breaks 15 Blackberries with a hammer. She goes out and takes out all sorts of printed documents and has them shredded. Nothing.
Precisely in part because she feared that foreign governments very likely got their hands on those emails, and they almost certainly did. That's the part of the Russian hacking story, I believe 100%, that they got all those emails. And probably the Chinese and Israelis too, maybe even the French.
So Trump tells Flynn to fall on his own sword. And there's no doubt, if there's any look, people, we are at full. I don't think people get this, James. We are at full scale war with the deep state right now. It is
with the globalist part of the deep state. I don't want to say that the globalists control the deep state 100% because they don't. If they did control it 100%, Trump would not have made it this far.
Correct.
They would have already taken him out, but they can't because there are going to be repercussions. Go ahead. Sorry.
Like what London Paul would say. The cabal. We're at full war with this globalist cabal.
Yes.
I mean, this thing is asymmetric. It was definitely sacrificing one of the bishops on the chessboard with the resignation of Michael Flynn. There's no doubt about it, man. We're in a hot war at this point. Asymmetrically and psychologically, we're in a hot war. So it's unreal, James. Unreal. James, you there?
TJ? Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, man.
Okay.
Thought I lost you there for a second.
No, I just had to go in another room where there's a lot of noise.
Yeah.
You still hear me? Okay.
Yep, I hear you loud and clear. Loud and clear.
Okay.
But it's truly remarkable that people need to understand this, and the libtards are celebrating like, Michael Flynn resigned.
Just wait, guys. Just wait.
Who's next? Who else is going to fail in the Trump administration? And I mean, you look at the headlines, man. I mean, I got the retarded headlines coming here on my phone real quick, and they're like, what is it? Trump's first 100 days, Flynn is the first to fall. All these liberal headlines. Who's next? This, that, and the other. Unreal, man.
Yeah, well, it has nothing to do with reality. I mean, it just shows that they think it's like a video game, or it's like, they've scored a touchdown or something. And it has nothing to do with reality that, you can make. I mean, first of all, Flynn is not somebody I'd want to piss off because he knows where a lot of the bodies are buried. Brennan is afraid of him.
Yes.
You don't see a lame duck CIA director who's about to leave office go after a U.S. national security advisor and claim, the Russians could blackmail him, in cooperation with some airhead Obama political appointee, deputy attorney general, who, thinks that she has no obligation to enforce the laws of this country as long as she just, in her own mind, just gets to instantly say, well, this is unconstitutional. The Constitution doesn't apply to the foreign nationals of these 7 countries come in. It only applies to, green card holders.
Yeah.
And that wasn't even the reason why she objected. It was just in general. So, there is going to be some type of pushback I'm looking for. And I think this is what my friend the Saker down there in Florida is missing, is that, this is far from over. This isn't just, Trump capitulated and now they're just going to roll him. No, that's not what's going on. There's too many other things. Bibi's coming to town. We've got the Israeli prime minister coming to the White House. They're going to be talking about Syria. They're going to be talking about Iran. They're going to be talking about a lot of things. And I just don't think that, Trump is just going to say, well, they forced Mike Flynn to resign. So now, I guess I'd better forget about this detente with Russia, my agenda. That's not how Trump thinks. No, you attack him, he fights back. He punches back twice as hard. That's why he's gotten this far.
Yeah, well, they definitely smell blood. That's for sure. So we, again,
they're about to get bloody pretty bad too, starting with Brennan. This is what I said on the program the last time I came on, guys. Brennan's in for it. There's going to be leaks coming down. How many people? We always hear all these leaks. These people didn't like Mike Flynn, or he was brusque, or he was a bad manager. How many people in the bureaucracy still in there with access to certain information actually like Flynn and are ready for some payback leaking? These guys better think about that. They better think about all the memos that were sent to Brennan's office and his loyalists, because everybody writes a memo when they want to cover their ass in government. They write a memo, right? They keep it in email. They save it somewhere, sock it away. So, if it ever comes back, if an operation goes bad, and obviously an operation like Syria has gone badly, people write things down. They record it. They keep minutes so they can protect themselves and say, hey, don't blame me. Blame my boss. Blame, somebody else. And that's exactly what's going to happen. Somebody somewhere in the NSA, in the DIA, and probably a few disgruntled people in the CIA, they know where the records are about people sending stuff to Brennan in late 2013 saying, hey, look, this group, this ISIL or whatever group, they're taking over half of Iraq. What are we going to do about this? And how he probably just ignored it for weeks or just gave them lip service. And then there have to be emails somewhere, from 2014 saying, look, here's the number of TOW missiles that, our moderate rebels just sold or surrendered to Jabhat al-Nusra, the Al-Qaeda affiliate. Or why is ISIS, where the hell are they getting all these anti-tank missiles? These very new ones. Or how much of the ammo that's coming out of Croatia or that was supposed to be shipped to our moderate boys is ending up with ISIS? And so on and so forth.
Yeah.
That information is out there and it will be leaked at some point. There's going to be a counterattack over this. And that's what I want to tell the listeners of this
the
show.
other angle is this. I mean, Michael Flynn retiring and signing out and not retiring, but, resigning. The thing that people need to answer is this. Look, there's nothing egregious there. It was literally a witch hunt that would have ended nowhere. It would have ended nowhere. It would have, they would have had a hearing about it.
In any other administration.
Exactly. They would have made a big stink about it, this, that, and the other. But at the end of the day, I think, if Flynn wanted to stay in, he could have endured. But I think, is there a baiting? I mean, Donald's notorious for doing this. He's like a Putin in that sense.
Yeah.
Is he laying a bait? And he's
drawing them out.
He's drawing them out.
Exactly. Brennan, because Brennan, it's now a matter of public record that Brennan got involved to get rid of Flynn. Yeah. And so later on, somebody can come back and say, why is Brennan so afraid of Flynn? What is this about? Well, he was just doing his patriotic duty. Blah, blah. Wait a minute. Since when is the CIA director responsible for counterintelligence? Okay, CIA has their own counterintelligence department, but you guys know that the FBI is in charge of counterintelligence and catching Russian and Chinese spies in this country. And they've jealously guarded that prerogative since the time of J. Edgar Hoover, right? Since the 1930s. Right. The CIA is not supposed to do domestic counterintel. They're only supposed to do counterintel within CIA.
Right.
Right? They can catch their own, Aldrich Ames or whoever, but they're not supposed to. They're not supposed to do counterintel
unless they're attached to something in the States, right? Unless they're attached to something local, right?
Correct. So this isn't Brennan's jurisdiction. So obviously, it looks like it was personal for him.
Yeah, without a doubt, man. I totally believe that it was personal for him. I mean, think about it. I wrote this on American Maidan. I've mentioned this before. At what point, like, at any time during history, have you ever seen, and like you said, James, an outgoing CIA director and, an intelligence service going after their boss, their new incoming boss? You've never seen it. It's unbelievable, man. It is full-scale war, man. I'm telling you, the cabal is walking into it. Trump's going to be out for blood.
Yeah, and this is just related to Syria and the Middle East here. I haven't even gotten into the Ukraine stuff that could yet to come out. I think it was I don't know if it was Sean of SGT Report or who it was that said that this is going to be the year of the truth bomb. But the leverage that Trump has over Poroshenko is, and I was talking about this in an email to W, the intelligence insider, and Bankster Slade and a few other people on the team, is that Trump could say, you know what, I got this letter from some of the MH17 families. They're in the Netherlands. We're good allies with the Netherlands. We want to put this information out there that the families have requested. So to help give them some peace of mind, we're going to declassify some of the satellite photography from the days leading up to MH17 shoot down because we want to get to the bottom of this. And, he starts declassifying U.S. satellite photographs of Ukrainian Buk missile launchers in the Donbass, where the Ukrainians lied and said they weren't there. They had nothing to do with anything. Their books were all somewhere far, far away from the MH17 flight path. Well, that's going to put Porky on notice. It's going to put the Ukrainian supporters and Congress McCain on notice.
Right.
We're not going to come out with everything just yet, but we can come out with a lot more.
Yeah.
That implicates the actual people and method of shooting down MH17. Because I don't even think it was a book, but I think there were Ukrainian books there. We know there were there.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
There's no doubt that Trump has got to go on the offensive here. 1-2 counterpunch. Bring Tulsi Gabbard aboard. She's a Democrat, right? Bring her in and let her expose her findings to Syria. Call congressional hearings,
right?
And start subpoenaing these people. Bring Obama and bring Hillary in,
right? And
I'll
put them back
tell you
on their
another
heels.
Part
of the counteroffensive too is that have you guys heard about this law that Ted Cruz has been quietly pushing in the Senate to designate the Muslim Brotherhood as a terrorist organization?
No, I didn't hear about that.
Yeah, well, yeah, and think about the implications of that, because remember that according to, this was reported on the Conservative Treehouse website, very good source, that McCain and Graham went and met with the Egyptian Muslim Brotherhood after. This was after not before the coup, when they were in as part of a democratically elected government that proceeded to terrorize the Coptic Christians and start instituting all kinds of Sharia stuff with the funding of the Qatari government and some from Saudi Arabia, but mainly from Qatar. McCain and Graham came after the Muslim Brotherhood was tossed out of power and Morsi was jailed by the Egyptian military and General Sisi.
Yeah.
They met with them. So, obviously there is no such thing as an ex post facto law that's constitutional. You can't prosecute them for those meetings. But what you can do is you can basically, put these people on notice, including Evan McMullen, the neocon presidential candidate, the former CIA agent, who was having meetings with the Syrian Muslim Brotherhood. You can basically say, okay, guys, you want to keep meeting with those people, you could be in violation of this law if you had meetings with those same figures now, right?
Yeah.
And you just emphasize it. You put people like McCain on notice. You put the people that have worked with them, who are basically these Soros go-betweens like Moaz Mustafa, on notice. And another thing that happened in the last 2 weeks, I just didn't have a chance to write about it, but have you guys ever heard of the Interpreter magazine? I don't know if the Interpreter.
No.
Yeah, it's basically a translations blog that was funded by Mikhail Khodorkovsky, the exiled oligarch.
Yeah. Okay.
Who was in jail in Siberia for a long time, and Putin released him in 2013, and he started funding this outfit called the Interpreter, which was led by a man named Michael D. Weiss, who's based in Manhattan, who writes for the Daily Beast, but he's also an employee of RFE-RL. But through the Interpreter, suddenly, for whatever reason, being picked up by the taxpayer-funded RFE-RL, right as the Maidan thing was happening, and then as the war in Ukraine erupted, they were providing a lot of translations and pushing the Kiev government propaganda. And what's interesting, what's happened in the last few weeks, is that the Interpreter's been quietly dumped by RFE-RL. They stopped, they cut off the funding, said, we're not going to fund you guys anymore. So now they're claiming they're going to do some funding or whatever, and they're going to try to keep it going. But basically, I'm not going to say it's a purge, but I think that them going after Trump, I heard rumblings back in November from my source in DC, one of my sources who talks to the transition team, that they were going to be looking at taxpayer-funded Broadcasting Board of Governors media and their bias against Trump, this incredible amount of, pro-Hillary, anti-Trump propaganda that our own taxpayer-funded media that is supposed to be, neutral between Democrats and Republicans, is just supposed to project a positive image in the United States abroad. Well, they were attacking Trump all summer.
Right.
And any story about Trump, Putin, any alleged link, they were putting it out there. And they were even translating videos. There was one video that the website BBG Watch put out that, Robert De Niro went on an obscenity-filled rant about Trump, and they translated into Ukrainian and put the Ukrainian subtitles on it.
Oh, that's
So,
wonderful.
yeah, there's this stuff's, I haven't really, I've been writing about this, but I haven't had the chance to talk about it on a show.
Right.
But there's been a lot of this stuff going on under the surface in terms of the propaganda war and where it's pointing to this idea of a deep state coup or soft coup or effort just to neuter Trump's policies, if not get him impeached. And another propaganda campaign that's going on is being put out by the European Union in Brussels. The EU East Stratcom organization, which is run by a man, at least the figurehead, I don't know if he's the guy actually giving orders, named Jakub Kalinski, who's a journalist, former Czech journalist. He's about 33 years old, lives in Brussels now, and he's been putting out all this anti-Trump propaganda at EU taxpayer expense on his Twitter feed, as well, not just on his own Twitter feed where it's quote unquote his own personal views, but also in the EU Stratcom weekly updates they send out on Thursday nights themselves. They have anti-Trump talking points and discussions of, they're attacking Breitbart. I mean, Breitbart, is an American media outlet.
Right.
These, correct me if I'm wrong, but these organizations were supposed to be set up to counter Russian propaganda, particularly Russian state-funded media, quote-unquote propaganda, i.e. RT, Sputnik. They weren't supposed to be attacking American news organizations simply because they're pro-Trump or they're anti-Merkel. So you see that there's this blurring lines going on. You have a globalist international that's attacking Trump, but you have a nationalist international that isn't to defend him and ally with him. Look at the visit of Marine Le Pen to Trump Tower. Now, that was unofficial. We don't have any evidence that Trump actually met with her, but we do know that a very close Italian businessman, friend of Trump's, who's lived in Trump Tower as his neighbor for many years, hosted the event. And the goal was to try to help Le Pen and the National Front raise money because the French elites, the French corporatists, they've blackballed the National Front. Everybody attacks Marine Le Pen because she took a loan from a Russian bank. Well, they leave out the other side of the story that, they've made it almost impossible for the National Front to raise money in France from French people. Correct. So it's, and whether that will succeed or not in defeating her, I know Lyndon Paul's talked about on the last few times he's been on the weekly show that she could actually win. But they're promoting this Emmanuel Macron now, this weird, socialist politician who's supposedly young and a fresh face. He kind of reminds me of the French Evan McMullen because, I heard he married one of his teachers that he had a sexual relationship with while he was in high school. That was many years his senior. But then other people claim, no, he's backed heavily by the gay lobby in France. It's very weird. I don't know where they found this guy, but the point is that now that Fillon has had his big scandal that, he was paying his wife and daughter some sums of tens of thousands of euros salary, he's pretty much falling apart as the center, quote unquote, center right candidate. So now you have Fillon and you have, he's basically supposedly going to bow out, and you have Macron going up against Le Pen.
Macron's going to get shredded because here's the thing: people don't understand is it's that frequency change that I often talk about, that Ken talks about.
Yeah,
there's a surge of nationalism. These idiots leftists don't understand that they think they can put out a young, fresh face, some socialist libtard. That's French people are sick of what's going on. I mean, look at the polls, the recent polls. They're
look at
Germans,
the lawlessness in these camps and this Calais jungle, and the child trafficking that's going on in these wretched refugee camps. That they need to be dismantled and these people need to be sent back. What are they doing there? Exactly. How is it that you establish these? And I hate to sound alt-right for you gentlemen. I'm not actually a member of the alt-right. I know somebody who is, but I'm not personally. But I'm more of an alt-west or a, what Vox Day would call an alt-light guy. But the fact of the matter is, when they say things like, conservatives haven't conserved a damn thing because they can't even keep, some middle-aged weirdo who thinks he's a woman from using the bathroom stall next to your teenage or preteen daughter. That's spot on, right? And
Right.
it's the same way with these idiots that are attacking Trump using state-funded propaganda, saying, well, we're defending the West. No, you're not. Who appointed you the right to speak for the West?
Yeah.
You, the people who are bringing in, who are maintaining open borders, who are bringing in millions of people from nations that the culture is just not compatible with our quote unquote any Western values by any comparable definition, particularly when you bring in that many people at once. I'm not saying there aren't great Muslims, or there aren't very highly productive Muslims who have integrated with the society and they peacefully worship at their mosque. I don't have a problem with it. But when you bring in so many at once with a clear agenda of population replacement, and when the documents get leaked, about Merkel, that Germany's going to need something between 15 and 25 million people to be brought in the next 20 years just to maintain population level, as if maintaining the population level is the only thing that matters in terms of the existence of a nation, that all warm bodies are essentially interchangeable, and these people are going to be just as productive and just as educated as the Germans who are already German.
That shows you the technocratic viewpoint of these idiots.
Right. That human beings are just interchangeable cogs, and so when you look at it from that perspective, who is the real racist, right? Who's the person that's saying a Muslim is just the same as a Hindu, is just the same as a Christian, is just the same as a German atheist? Who is denying the reality of human diversity, including the biodiversity? Well, it's not the people who are objecting to this mass migration. It's the people who are engineering it.
Correct. Absolutely right.
All right. So
yeah. Go ahead, CJ.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, James, any thoughts on the recent elections in Germany?
Yeah, that was big.
So Merkel is obviously out, and did they double down by placing in Frank-Walter Steinmeier?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Steinmeier. Yeah, he's he was the foreign minister in Germany, and now he's the president. But the president position in Germany, for those who don't know in our audience, is largely a ceremonial and symbolic role that has some, it has some diplomatic portion to it, but it's really not.
It's not the prime minister type position.
Yeah, it's not even anywhere close to the executive power that the president of France or the U.S. has. So, but Steinmeier was the one who said, that we don't need any more real tanks rolling around the Russian borders. It's not accomplishing anything. And he took a lot of flack for that. So anyway, I'm going to wrap up, gentlemen, in about 5 minutes. So if you want to, I guess if there are any questions you have for me about Russia in particular, or what's going on over there, or
what is going on in Russia, man? Go ahead and wrap up with Russia.
Well, it's interesting because I think what the Russian media has been doing in the last several weeks has been sort of telling people to lower your expectations a little bit, that Trump is not going to come in and just instantly fix the U.S.-Russia relationship, that, Russians are aware that there's this thing called the deep state. There are reasons why, we had a first Cold War that dragged on for so long, and why this second Cold War has been so difficult to wind up, because you have so many vested interests. You can't justify the kind of big budget things that a lot of the military industrial complex wants, going up against a bunch of people with AKs and Toyota, flat guns on them. You need a great power, or a superpower, ideally adversary, with some real technological potential. Yeah. And, what's interesting to me is that when I read a lot of military related publications that people who are active duty actually publish in their free time, like at the Small Wars Journal and some of these other sites, and War on the Rocks. And they've quietly admitted in the last few months, after analyzing the eastern, the fighting in eastern Ukraine and Donbass, that the U.S. Army is not ready for a war with Russia on their doorstep by any stretch.
Right.
They're just not ready for a war with a peer level great power, or technological peer level, I should say, great power competitor or even a superpower like China. So,
Right.
This stuff that's going on the Russian borders. I mean, there was a group of U.S. troops. They posed for a selfie
Yeah, I saw that.
at
That's
the
so stupid.
Ivangorod fortress, which was established in the late 1400s on Russia's far western border with what was then I think it was the Swedish Empire at that time. The Swedes had an empire at one point.
Can you
Hard to
believe that?
believe now, yeah, that they're ruled by women, but at that time they were still kind of heirs of the Vikings. They were fighting with the Poles and Lithuanians and the Russians and everybody else for control around the Baltic Sea. But I mean, the Russians aren't really impressed by that sort of thing. They would kind of view it more as a sign of weakness, of bluster, than anything else. But
Of course.
overall, I think what's happening is that there's an awakening process in this country, but there's also an awakening process in Russia too, because a lot of topics that might have been, it's not that, discussing the Rothschilds or Rockefellers has ever been as quote unquote fringe in Russia, at least since the 1990s, as it is here, or as it was considered here. But it's that people are slowly kind of coming to a broader realization that, well, first of all, that there aren't any real simple answers to some of these things. You can't just send tanks to Kiev and expect to solve the Ukraine problem. It's not how it's going to work. That's not the end game. But by the same token, you also cannot just passively sit back and let yourself be bullied and pushed around anymore either. So finding a way forward without, getting into real military confrontation is the challenge. It's kind of like with Reagan when he set out to force the Soviets to cry uncle. He had a multi-part strategy that involved military, economic, propaganda, or
James, you there? CJ, I think we lost him. CJ, did I lose you guys?
No, we're here,
Oh,
V. I think his mic was muted for a second, but I think it's down now. So yeah, it's he's trying to get it unmuted.
Anyway, CJ, we
Lots of great conversation, right? I
a
mean,
lot
just
of great
very
stuff. Yeah.
intense. I mean, and that's the thing that I want our listeners to completely understand is that, as far as the election, it changed, but we're seeing it now. Obama is rising. He is starting to amass an army with the media, with a lot of socialist groups that are going to be out there. So there's a big battle in front of us, and I think that you nailed it, V. That this is going to be a flat out war going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think if you love your country, get ready. Get ready, because now we're fighting for the very soul of the republic. We're fighting for everything that is Americana, man. I mean, here's the deal. I should have, quickly wrote the article and put it out. I had all the details within about a week or 2 weeks ago, at least, maybe even 3. And now I'm seeing all these articles coming out where, the 30,000 that that Obama has mobilized. What I'm going to do with this article, guys, I'm going to link the whole entire thing together. I'm going to show you who the hell's funding Soros, who the hell is helping Soros, who's also helping to get Obama going. It's a huge. This is war. I have no other way to put it. This is all out friggin' war, man. And
hey,
the
sorry
fact
about that, guys. I dropped off. I was
hey, no
rambling,
worries.
but can you hear me?
No, yeah, we can hear you loud and clear, man. Why don't you give out your closing comments, bro?
Yeah, I'm just going to close out my thought that. I wanted to say that I think it's an amazing time to be alive, and I want people to stay overall positive. That's what I like about this program. You have people like Harley, you have people like Lyndon Paul who can explain things to people without all the doom and gloom and BS.
Yeah, I mean, where else are you going to hear
it? Right? The excessive, and you don't have this sort of wild swings where 1 minute you have people just goofily, wildly hyping the Russian threat, and the next minute, for a certain alt media talk host, he's talking about how the Russians are actually behind Soros, or they're paying for some of these Soros rent-a-mobs.
Jerome
Ridiculous.
Corsi's a moron. I'll say it. I'll just go out there and say it.
Yeah. I don't.
Who the hell are you, Corsi?
Yeah,
I mean, seriously.
You did such a good job exposing Obama. What happened to you, man? Like,
stick with the domestics, Corsi.
Yeah.
Stick with the domestics. Leave the international stuff to the big boys.
Right.
Stick with the domestic. You're good at that. Stay in your ball field. Stay in your wheelhouse.
Right.
Ridiculous.
And that's why, I mean, I'm a Russia guy, but I don't try to get on this show and tell people, what's going on in China or, Africa or Latin America. It's not that I don't know anything about those places. It's just I'm not a specialist, I couldn't judge up here and call myself the China or the Africa analyst. It's just not my thing. So yeah, vigilant, but they need to be diligent in terms of, recognizing who are the reliable sources and sticking with their with the people who really have been consistent and on the ball. Right. And that would include this channel.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can count on one hand. James, thank you so much for joining us, man. Enjoy your day. It's always a treat to have you on, bro.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Absolutely.
Take care.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So, yeah, dude, it's Obama set up a shadow White House, his little stupid mansion. Think about it. This guy is Mr. Hawaii. This guy, whenever he wants to vacation, he's, running around on the beach in the sand and he's surfing with, out in Hawaii, or he's going to go back to Chicago. No, this guy gets a McMansion, a McMansion right near the White House, literally like, 2 blocks away or something like that. I mean, it's ridiculous, CJ. That is an operational starting point. It's been fortified. They've had fiber optics brought in. They've had all sorts of high-tech equipment brought in. That, I'm telling you, you go to the basement of that place, it is an operational headquarters. Michael or Michelle, whatever the hell you want to call it, has gotten an office there as well. And they're running this operation with the what is the name of his organization, man? Movement for Action.
Yeah, move on to there's a lot of MoveOn.org.
There's so many of them. There's MoveOn.org. There's the Open Society Foundation.
Society, yep.
OSF, which I'm writing about, and Obama's thing, which I'm also writing about. I just can't come up with the name off the top of my head, but he's got 30,000 people. Where the hell is the money coming from? This is psychological warfare to undermine not just the president of the United States, but to undermine the United States, period. These are all enemies of the state. They should be hung for treason. They should be hung for sedition.
Yeah, I think at this point, exactly. Obama should be labeled an enemy of the state. You're going to undermine and again, regardless of Trump, we know, he's going to make mistakes and everything else. But who does this, V? Who does this? Not throughout history have we seen a president leave office and be so disruptive to the new administration. So I take it this. I think he's pissed off. I think he is mad that his bogus legacy that never really existed, that you're going to see Obama taken apart. I think he's out to completely undermine not only the administration, but America. He wants to continue that dismantling of America. And again, with this going forward, people have to stay tuned. People have to be very careful about all the stories they're reading, because there's so many different fake narratives that are out there right now. And we're the only ones that are bringing you the truth.
Yeah, absolutely. You want to get the balance of what the hell's going on in the world. This is it. I don't know anybody else on YouTube that's talking about this kind of stuff at the level that we are. Nobody. Period. That's why we get trolled by other major media outlets who troll us, who troll our writers, who troll our contributors. Want to know, hey, who are you guys? How are you guys funding yourselves? What's going on? This, that, and the other. Because they don't have an expertise in this. They don't have an expertise in this. We do as a team. And that's the thing. It's so vital. You're going to have so much BS. You better stick with the team that has the international game on lock, CJ. We have it on lock.
Yeah, we're gonna have the Prince. We're gonna be going into great detail on the entire Middle East on Wednesday, or tomorrow is Wednesday. Yeah, tomorrow with the Prince. So he's going to be joining us tomorrow. So we'll be breaking down. I know some of our listeners had asked, hey, what they're getting concerned around, Iran and Afghanistan and Saudi Arabia. So he's going to be breaking that down to us tomorrow.
I can't wait for that one, man. It's going to be great.
Absolutely, absolutely.
All right, buddy. I mean, I think we're done with the
yeah.
show.
Let's wrap it up. Absolutely.
I want to thank all you folks for listening in. And again, here's the deal: subscribe to the channel, hit that stupid bell icon, and support us. Because to be honest with you, I think CJ, I think you probably noticed this or not. There is some fishy business going on with how many subs we're getting versus how many's dropping off. There's some fishy business going on here. Okay. I'm not gonna don't mention any names, CJ. Let's just leave it at that. Okay. We don't want the algos. Yep. We don't want to fall into the algos over there. But show your support for us. Just tune in here, guys. And also check out roguemoney.net. And this will continue. We have strategies in place to get around all this. It's just a matter of implementing it, and we're doing it all on a shoestring budget. It's remarkable, and we ask for nothing in return. Okay, so that's the most amazing thing with what we're doing at Rogue. So check out roguemoney.net. Follow us on Twitter at the Rogue Money. Check us out on Facebook, Rogue Money as well. And also check out our sponsor. And this is for people, again, the only service we're offering from our sponsors who, if you're in debt, you need help getting out of debt, check out myfreedomnow.us, myfreedomnow.us. You can book a call. Heck, I might even call you. So check them out. With that being said, CJ, I'll give out your closing comments, and then we're over.
Yeah, absolutely. Have a great day, and hopefully we'll be back at 2:00 for Trading Terradome with Dex. So stay tuned. We'll be back later on.
Have a great day, everyone. Take it away, CJ.